name's Kyle MacDonald. I'm a media artist and I'm coming from Brooklyn here to Manchester to do a residency. I normally work a lot with interactivity, a lot of open source tools. I spend a lot of my time programming and making weird sounds and visuals.
This is Joanny Lemercier. I'm a visual artist. I'm originally from France, but I moved to Bristol about 8 years ago. And that's pretty much at the time where I started doing projection. First I was doing projecting onto flat screens, and quite quickly I moved on to projection onto 3D objects.
I think maybe one of the only consistent kind of themes in the work that I do is collaboration. I work with like every different media and every different kind of concept and theme, but it's always very collaborative and always based on open source and sharing tools with people and kind of appropriating technologies and making them more accessible to artists especially, so that we can kind of create the future that we want to see. I first met Joni at the school that I was studying at. He was there doing a short residency to develop his piece with the volcano from Iceland. That's kind of this projection map piece with drawing. We started kind of seeing that we were both really interested in kind of R&D, like artistic R&D, not just kind of making something with a fixed media, but always finding like new canvas, new media to explore. And then Elliot got in contact with both of us and said, well, we have this really cool space. Would you be interested in developing some of the ideas that you've been thinking about in this space?
So this space is called the Octave, and it's a very powerful VR machine which a single person can go inside and they become immersed in this set of screens, and there's 14 high resolution screens around them, and each of them can represent 3D images. There's a lot of research at the University of Salford that's been put into trying to create this ideal virtual reality environment, and it's part of like a long curve of this kind of sci-fi fantasy of the holodeck, the environment you can go into where there's complete digital control over your experiences. A lot of our science fiction tropes from the past we're trying to reject at the moment. We know the jetpack isn't coming, we know the holodeck isn't really real, or the hologram isn't real. So it allows us to start rediscovering these systems, both as trying to create a completely immersive environment, but as objects in themselves, like in this kind of this venue of technology. Also in here we've got like the infrared transmitter which talks to your glasses to tell it to flicker, to switch between left eye and right eye. And they've got the wave field synthesis speakers up here. We've also got things like these Vicon cameras which can track your position of your head or the position of your feet or whatever.
You know, normally they have their own tools that are used for kind of making a very convincing environment, but we had to develop our own tools so that we could kind of integrate our systems with their system. Like half of our spirit was like solving these technical problems, and the other half of our spirit was like, you know, running amok with ideas for like what you could do with this crazy virtual reality space. One of the most amazing moments was when I realized that kind of these virtual reality spaces can actually be really immersive, that there's a point where it breaks down and it stops being just screens and it really becomes like an immersive environment. You know, we had something really simple, just a wireframe mesh of a cylinder kind of floating through the space, and when you stood in the right spot in the room, not even wearing stereo glasses, you started to like lose your feeling for where the walls and the floor were, and you could see this massive form kind of floating past you.
It was really nice to show my sketches and my drawings to Kyle, and then he managed to port this into code and to make the like a very similar scene with open frameworks.
Even if we're using different toolkits, we can really be speaking the same language a lot of the time, because we're talking about geometry and color and things like shaders that are kind of very cross toolkit.
We've been looking at a lot of kind of old philosophy and geometry and thinking about these ideas of like platonic solids, these shapes that are like the fundamental shapes that people used to think made up the structure of the universe, and they corresponded to different elements. So we're thinking, even if we don't think that the universe is made this way anymore, we still make virtual worlds this way.
It's not quite working yet. We have a few problems with the projector sync, the 3D sync, the perspective, but there are many variables. So that's what we're doing at the moment, trying to tweak the calibration.
It can get really difficult when it comes to low-level technical integration because tools aren't always meant to work together nicely. You have kind of super geeky problems like DirectX versus OpenGL, and not being able to run both of those in the same space, but wanting to integrate them.
And Elliot made a kind of bridge to run OpenGL inside V4. I think one of the most exciting things about this residency was to be around some artists and developers and I really respect and I'm really fascinated by their work. I quite like the idea of when you put people together with slightly different skills and slightly different approach to projects, sometimes some kind of magic happens.